set a button and tell all your friends. Like us on Facebook and tell the world about the station in Oklahoma letting freedom ring. With 100,000 watts of power, the new Freedom 96.9 and freedom969.com. Freedom
Weather.
Here's your Oklahoma City AccuWeather forecast. This afternoon, expect mostly cloudy skies with humidity and a chance of showers in spots reaching a high of 75. Tonight will remain cloudy and humid with isolated thunderstorms possible late and a low of 68. Tomorrow, anticipate some sunshine mixed with clouds along with a chance of a thunderstorm remaining humid with a high of 79. Monday will be humid with a blend of clouds and sun reaching a high of 82. Tuesday is looking pleasant with a mix of sun and clouds and a high of 81. With your Oklahoma City AccuWeather forecast, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
We interrupt our program with a special bulletin.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are solely those of the speakers and other contributors. These views and opinions do not necessarily represent those of this station.
Broadcasting live from the Command Center of Freedom, 96.9 in Oklahoma City, it's McRoof Fortifies, Oklahoma. Saving lives, protecting property, fortifying Oklahoma, one roof at a time. I'm Rick Allen Lippert here with Hague Certified Master Level Damage Inspector, Oklahoma Licensed Public Adjuster, Fortified Evaluator, and IBHS Fortified Roofing Contractor, Scott McCollum.
Good morning, sir.
Also here is State Insurance Commissioner candidate Chris Meredith.
Good morning.
Scotty McCollum will be phoning in later with his view from the rooftop. Retro Radio Randy running the show today. He's still on probation, folks. So we can't let him talk on the air because we don't know what will come out of his mouth. But you can talk to him when you call 405-608-4377. We are live streaming today on the McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma YouTube channel. You can also hear us on freedom969.com. We'll start, as usual, with our trivia question and other interesting tidbits, including the word of the week, which this week is a word comparison. The phone number, again, to answer the trivia question or to just ask a question, 405-608-4377. Later, we'll have some After the Storm tips brought to you by RoofRx, and we'll wrap up with Dad's Wisdom. And coming back from breaks, we'll have some genuine, obscure historical trivia. Now, Scott, I was riding in a car earlier this week, and the driver was pulled over for a minor traffic offense. The officer returned to hand the driver his license back and just issue a warning, by the way. Officer reached way into the car and handed me a note that said, don't forget to say that S&CM LLC, doing business as McRoof.us, legally operates under Oklahoma registration number 80000002, and that the registration applies to both residential and commercial roofing. I'm not sure that's legal for him to do that.
That's new meaning to the words, the law is on your tail.
And the long arm of the law.
Oh, man.
Okay, so Chris Meredith, you are here. We're going to get more into why you're here today, which I'm really glad of because you're going to be talking about a lot of really important stuff. But we need to get our trivia question getting going out there. All
right, here we go.
All right, so listen up, folks.
And this ties into, the
why Chris is here.
And why Chris is here and everything else. So how many billion-dollar climate-related disasters were there in the United States in 2023? Billion-dollar climate-related disasters in the U.S. in 2023. Is it 17, A, 17, B, 21, C, 28, or D, 32?
All right. If you think you know the answer, give us a call, 405-608-4377. The winner will get their choice of a couple of books, Raving Fans or Unreasonable Hospitality, or a Lowe's $25 gift card, or 2 free tickets to any Carpenter Square Theater production this season that opens in a couple of weeks.
Awesome. Well, I will tell you, I don't think Benny will be calling today. His 98-year-old dad in California is not doing well.
Oh,
so I just want to throw a shout out there to Benny, and we're praying for your dad, Benny.
All right, so that trivia question again, how many billion-dollar climate-related disasters were there in 2023? 17, 21, 28, or 32. 405-608-4377. Okay, Chris Meredith, you're a declared candidate for in-state insurance commissioner. When's the filing period? When do you become an official candidate?
I don't think the filing is until April of next year.
Okay.
For official filing.
But you're out there fighting the good fight already.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's important that whoever, if you're filing for office, that you actually get started now.
Yeah.
Because I want to come in, once I take office, I want to come in ready to go with
Sure.
a plan, already some momentum built, things in place that we're working on, and then and really take it up a notch once you hit the office.
Get to work on day one.
Because we don't have time. I mean, we're already behind schedule. I was looking at kind of our first topic. We're going to talk about Louisiana a little bit, and in my mind, when I read the article, I was like, I feel like challenging them to who can build the most fortified homes, and they already have a 2-year head start. So, you know what? I like being the underdog. So let's bring that on.
All right. Since you mentioned Louisiana, this past week, all over the news was the 20th anniversary of Katrina hitting New Orleans. Here we are 20 years later.
Yeah. So I'm real big on let's take what other states are doing and see how they can be replicated here if they're working and, design for Oklahoma. I mean, we don't have the hurricane problem. We have hail and wind problem. So we need to, adjust the program a little bit for our needs because the program does work. Alabama shows it works. And Louisiana is starting to see success as well. And,
And you're talking about building back to fortified standards.
Right. And they put a lot of investment into the levees and all these billions of dollars into the systems around it, but they kind of were not building their homes back stronger until a couple of years ago when they implemented the program. And now they've started to rebuild their homes in the fortified standard so they can withstand the damage and keep people in the city. I mean, that was kind of the big problem is when people have just widespread damage and serious damage, then they're less likely to stay in the community. That's what we don't need in Oklahoma. We don't want people leaving because of a storm. So we want to, we need to build smarter, build to the threat that we have that we're facing to prevent damage from ever happening and disrupting our economy. I mean, that's something we don't think about.
I'm sorry, Chris. One of the things about Katrina that I think gets lost a lot of times is that everybody knows that was a Cat 3 hurricane when it came on land, all right? The winds from Katrina were not what caused the damage. The failure of the levee on Lake Pontchartrain is what flooded New Orleans, and that is where the damage came from. So a lot of people think of hurricanes and they think of wind and rain. This was actually a failure in infrastructure that led to what became New Orleans, all right? So there's a lot of things about it. Now, to Chris's point, what they're doing on the Gulf Coast now, everything that is being rebuilt on the Gulf Coast is being built at higher elevations, or they're being built up high above that line. And so they're building better structures. They're elevating the structures so they can withstand the storm surge and so that they can withstand the wind. That's a different scenario than what actually caused all of that damage in New Orleans. But Chris is exactly right. We have the ability to build fortified structures. We have the knowledge of where we should and shouldn't be building. And we have the technology, the building science, the systems to be able to protect consumers, to be able to save lives and protect property. And that's what we have to do. As Chris said, in the inland, in the heartland, in Oklahoma and our neighbors to the north and the east, what we need to do is be adopting the fortified standards and building to the high wind and hail standard on roofs and working our way into the silver and gold homes and the commercial and multifamily fortified structures. That's where we need to go. And these billion-dollar climactic events that can be avoided, that is impetus, that is pressure on the marketplace to change. But at the end of the day, consumers have to be educated. They're the ones that have to decide to change.
So that brings up a question, excuse me, for you, Chris. All this talk about fortified, at its core, what's the benefit of building to fortified standards?
Yeah, there's a lot of benefits to it. I mean, number one, once you build the fortified standard, so your home withstands damage. You know, when we have the hail and the wind coming down the plains, you're not as worried about it damaging your home. You're in a safe environment. So that's number one. You have a safer home that can withstand our weather that we have here in Oklahoma, and so you go to the next step. You're less likely to have to deal with an insurance claim at all.
Bingo.
Right? I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I don't like even dealing with having a claim. I mean, I've had several, and it's not fun at all. So it's better just not to have one. That's number one and two for me. And then you get into, you're going to have your premium's probably going to decline. It's going to have a discount with it.
If you build back to fortified standards.
If you have a fortified home, you're going to have a discount with it.
I want to stop you there, Rick.
Okay.
I believe there will be a time that if you do not build back to fortified standards, you will not be able to buy insurance. Okay, so let's just be really black and white about what this is.
How long out? How far away do you see that happening? 10 years? 15 years?
I would say within 10 years.
Okay.
I would certainly say within 10 years.
Insurance deserts are very, very likely on the horizon.
Insurance desert.
Yeah, where you don't have
where no one can get insurance.
Correct. At the minimum, in industries, I'm hearing that you're not going to have replacement cost roofs at all through the Midwest if you just have a regular roof. So you need to do something to mitigate that and be resilient against the risk.
Okay.
I think the realities are pretty apparent, and I know that none of us are privy to the conversations. We're not in the C-suites or in the boardrooms.
Right.
But I guarantee you that the messaging that is going from the boardrooms, the C-suites to producers, agents, national brokers, is that we must find a way to mitigate our risk when it comes to specifically roofs. Roofs are a huge part of everything that insurance companies pay all these billions and billions of dollars a year for claims for.
Right. Speaking of billions, our trivia question: how many billion-dollar climate-related disasters were there in 2023? 17, 21, 28, or 32? Give us a call, 405-608-4377. You're listening to McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma, live radio on Freedom 96.9 on Saturday morning. We'll be right back.
This is Chris Guanera, CEO of Blue Falcon Aerial. We're proud to partner with McRoof.us to enhance the Roof RX program. McRoof.us already has a trusted, proven system, and we're here to add an extra layer of precision with crystal clear drone imagery using the state-of-the-art Mavic 3 series. With our background in the surveying industry and as drone instructors at Francis Tuttle, we know accuracy. Our documentation supports McRoof's certified professionals so they can make the best recommendations for your roof, saving lives and protecting property, one roof at a time. Roof RX, where technology meets technical competence.
They deal with the insurance company for you, which is so nice and helpful.
One of the most important things that I prioritize is setting the right expectation, what they can expect from their insurance carrier, what ducks need to be lined up to make sure their project reaches the outcome that they desire.
I'm on the phone most of the day, talking with insurance companies, trying to resolve a claim that has not been paid correctly. We don't give up.
They were able to come out and give a full, in-depth inspection. That process ultimately led to a doubling of the claim.
He probably got me, at least on this roof, $50,000 more by my calculation than I would have gotten with the other roofers.
It goes far beyond what a normal roofing company would do. We're going to do it right.
McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma, live on Saturday morning on Freedom 96.9. I'm Rick Allen Lippert. We're live in studio with Scott McCullum and Chris Meredith. On this date in 1890, President Benjamin Harrison signed the first U.S. law requiring inspection of meat products. 1951, on this date, the U.S. and the Philippines signed a mutual defense pact. I assume it's still in effect. Our trivia question still out there. How many billion-dollar climate-related disasters were there in 2023? 17, 21, 28, or 32? Give us a call, 405-608-4377. We have prizes for the winner of the trivia question. Okay, gentlemen, we were talking about climate-related disasters all over the nation. And, Scott, you handed us a couple of maps that show total hail reports from 1955 to 2002, and it's color-coded, and the bullseye on this target looks like it's right over Moore, Oklahoma.
Oh, imagine
If you
that.
pinpoint it, it looks like it's Moore.
So this is a historical map. This is 1955 to 2002 hail, United States of America. And it's two different maps. It's a hail report map, and then it's right beside it is the greater than 2 inch, what we call very severe hail map. And clearly, the bullseye is Oklahoma.
The whole western 2/3 of the state.
Exactly. And you know, it's one of those things that, Chris, I wish that this visual was out there for people more than it is. I wish that everyone knew what this map showed, and that it you know, when they're upset with their insurance company, or when they're upset with the premiums that they're paying or something else, that at least they have that mental image that they can have some point of reference for. Now, hail is not the only thing that gets us. We understand that. And one of the things that, you know, we understand is that our weather patterns are actually shifting. You know, the traditional hail belt and tornado alley, hail belt is still pretty much north and south through the heartland. But Tornado Alley has definitely migrated over the last 15 or 20 years, very much more to the east and the south of the traditional Tornado Alley. And then we have our fire risks here in Oklahoma. We know that we deal with the wildfires, you know, year after year after year here as well. So these major storm events are always going to be problematic, and they happen everywhere. You know, you look at the flooding in Ruidoso, New Mexico. You look at things that occur in places that they haven't traditionally or normally occurred. Everyone needs to understand we are all subject to the changing weather patterns.
Yeah. On this, I got a feeling this paper's going to be out on social media.
Oh, okay.
Today, so.
Thank you, Chris.
Most likely.
Hey,
So.
we have young Scotty McCullum on the line. It's time for him to do our view from the rooftop. Hang on, Scotty. Hang on.
I'm hanging on, Rick. I'm hanging on.
Well, now,
oh my gosh!
Now instead of hanging on for the wind, it's a slippery slide, or what do you call it?
All right, Scotty. How is your view from the rooftop this morning?
Well, my view from the rooftop, I'll just start with the title, as I should, and that is something a lot of people have been saying this week. Darn roofer. Darn roofer. And I barely made it down from the rooftop in time to call y'all for this segment.
Oh, good. Thank you.
I might add.
That. Are they calling you the darn roofer, Scotty, or is it somebody
They're
else?
Calling us the darn roofer, but I have news for them. It's not the darn roofer.
Oh, okay. Tell us what you got, buddy.
Well, I just got off this roof that we did about 5 years ago. It was a warranty claim for a manufacturer that is not our brand of choice, but is one among the best in terms of overall reputability, if that's even a word.
Yeah.
Quality. that we know because we see their products and have seen how they perform for many years. And the roof, I will jump to the end, which people might have been anticipating by the title, is in A+ shape. The roof is in A+ shape. However, these people called us with leaks after obtaining our contact information and our warranty information from, of course, the man that we put the roof on for 5 years ago. And in fact, they've had many storms in that 5-year time frame since the house was sold, some of which have done extreme damage to their coated low-slope roof. Because the customer initially called us telling me that the shingles were flapping up, that they had leaks everywhere, and I wouldn't argue that they do. It's certainly not the shingled roof. We've got ponding, evidence of ponding all over the low-slope coated roof. This is a polyurethane sprayed roof, and then it was had a acrylic coating applied over it, so it's acrylic over about an average thickness of 1.5 inches polyurethane foam.
Let me just jump in real fast, Scotty. McRoof does not do SPF roofs, so anybody...
Not anymore.
We do not.
We've done a couple, and we've seen how they perform,
Yes,
so no.
yes.
Yeah, and those were commercial properties, and yeah, we don't recommend that. Coating, in most cases, people want it to be a Band-Aid. People are paying for an expensive Band-Aid. And as we all know, Band-Aids in the long run are more expensive than surgery because you need a lot of Band-Aids to do what you'll never do what a surgery does with Band-Aids.
All right.
Obviously.
Scotty, we have 3 minutes.
Okay. Roof, A+ shape, shingled roof. Acrylic over polyurethane coated roof. Needs to be completely demoed. It's been hail damaged. It's been marred all up from foot traffic, maybe tool drop. Who knows? I don't know who all has been there, but it looks like the homeowner has been walking on the roof to do other projects quite a lot in the last few years. All that just to say, not our issue. And he's got extreme blistering also that probably started as hail impact on that coated roof and developed into what became now, or what has now become a few large openings in the top surface of that coated roof, or more minor openings that are consistent with what we know as hail impact on a coated roof. Lastly, brick chimneys. Everybody check your chimney, have your mason out, and please refrain from saying darn roofer before you know it's the darn roofer, because this brick chimney it looks like it has not been touched in 20 years, and it looks like the last thing that was done 20 years ago or so may have been just to put some goop on all the excessive holes in the mortar joints.
Yeah.
So it definitely needs to be rebricked. Need to be demoed and completely rebuilt.
So to Scotty's point, and I'll sum this all up, you're thinking darn roofer, and it just may not be the darn roofer. I just want to make sure everybody understands that. I was on a roof yesterday.
Thanks for bringing that to a conclusion, Dad.
There you go, Scotty. You got it. Have a great day, son.
Y'all too. Be safe.
All right.
Thanks, Scotty. Get back to work.
Have a good day.
So I was
yes, sir, Rick. Got it.
I was actually on a roof yesterday.
Yeah.
Brick laying all over the roof, just little pieces of brick. It's what we call spalling.
Yes.
It's where the faces of the brick get either knocked off by impact or freeze thaw and pop off, laying all over the roof. And that's exactly the kind of situation Scotty's talking about.
Oh, my goodness.
But I'll tell you what happens with SPF roofs when we come back, if that's what we need to do.
Yeah, because I need to get the trivia question out there one more time before we go to break. The number again, 405-608-4377. How many billion-dollar climate-related disasters were there in 2023? 17, 21, 28, or 32? 405-608-4377. McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma. We'll be back on the other side.
Knowledge is power. Combine that with 100,000 watts of power, and you've got the most important talk station in Oklahoma. We're the new Freedom 96.9 and freedom969.com. Freedom
Weather. Here's your Oklahoma City AccuWeather forecast. This afternoon, expect mostly cloudy skies with humidity and a chance of showers and spots reaching a high of 75. Tonight will remain cloudy and humid with isolated thunderstorms possible late and a low of 68. Tomorrow, anticipate some sunshine mixed with clouds along with a chance of a thunderstorm, remaining humid with a high of 79. Monday will be humid with a blend of clouds and sun reaching a high of 82. Tuesday is looking pleasant with a mix of sun and clouds and a high of 81. With your Oklahoma City AccuWeather forecast, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
We interrupt our program with a special bulletin.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are solely those of the speakers and other contributors. These views and opinions do not necessarily represent those of this station.
McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma back on the air for the second half of this morning's live radio show on Freedom 96.9. I'm Rick Allen Lippert. On this date in 1963, the compact audio cassette, remember cassettes? Yeah. Was first introduced by Philips at a radio exhibition in Berlin. And in the continuing in the technology vein, also on this date, the same date, 1963, the hotline, the red phone, installed at the Pentagon in D.C. in the Kremlin. You know, but the thing is, it's called the red telephone, but it's never been a telephone. No phones were ever used. It relied instead on teletype equipment, fax machines, and later secure email between the Pentagon and the Kremlin. All right, our trivia question. I believe we have a caller on the line for the trivia question. Jerry. Hey, Jerry, good to hear from you.
Good morning.
How are you, sir?
Living the dream.
Living the dream. All right.
All right, Jerry. So, how many billion-dollar climate-related disasters were there in 2023? 17, 21, 28, or 32?
Well, I'll try to be not completely pessimistic, so I'll try for 28.
Ding, 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 ding.
You got it, buddy.
That's exactly right.
Attitude wins.
That is exactly right, Jerry.
That's good guess there.
So it is obviously it is an ever increasing number. That's kind of the issue. I think in 2019 we were at 15 or something like that. In 2021 we were at 22, and now in 2023 we're at 28. You kind of see a trend here, kind of understand the implications of that to everyone. So absolutely. Thank you, Jerry.
All right, Jerry, stay on the line. Tell Randy what your choice of prize will be, and thanks for playing the game. Do you have any other questions or comments?
Well, with that unfortunate situation, Scott, is there anything we can do to lessen the damage to our homes?
Oh, Jerry, I can't believe you would ask me a question like that. You know, Jerry, let me say this. Why would I want to build a roof for you that I'm never going to get to replace? Why would I want to do that, Jerry? Why would I do that?
I think you're a good businessman, and you're also a Christian. So
Obviously,
I think you're well-hearted.
Obviously, folks, Jerry is one of my clients. Jerry has one of my metal roofs. Certainly will not be replacing his metal roof for wind damage less than 130 miles an hour or for hail much greater than 2 inches in diameter. The chances of Jerry ever replacing that metal roof in his or my lifetime is almost nil. But not just in the metal roof world, we also have the ability to be able to do almost that same type of performance in our asphalt shingle world now with our IBHS fortified high wind and hail designated roof systems. We're using the SBS modified flex technology asphalt shingle that is a absolute workhorse. Again, I've been putting this on in Oklahoma since 2014. I did some math the other day. My roofs, Certainty, Northgate, and Climate Flex SBS modified asphalt shingle roofs have been through winds certainly greater than 100 miles an hour in Oklahoma, and hail that I can measure and quantify up to 5 3/4 inches in Oklahoma, and we have never replaced one of these roofs for wind or hail damage. So I don't know what else I can tell you from a historical perspective, real world experience of products and technology and systems. That's the way it is. I tell my clients when they buy a fortified roof system with one of my 2 Certainty shingle offerings that they are probably looking at a roof short of that high EF2 tornado range, which is 100, over 130 mile an hour. Then we're getting into the more destructive damage. But up till that point, they're looking at a roof that roof's going to be there 35, 40 years from now, and that is an asphalt shingle. That is the entry level for roofing in North America, an asphalt shingle, and that's the kind of performance we can build into those systems. Jerry, you know all this stuff. You're just picking me.
Well, that might be true, but Scott, if we have concerns about our roof, what's the best solution to answer that problem, and who might we call?
Well, there's only one solution for that, Jerry, and that's Roof RX. Everything starts with a qualified inspection. Get your prescription for your repairs and roll into your maintenance protocols for life cycle maintenance of any roof system. Roof RX, 405-877-7663. And Rick, I think we're going to have to put Jerry on the payroll after that call.
You have one more small question. Do you still have your ambulance for Roof RX?
I do not. But I have a really cool truck I want to show you, Jerry.
I'm sure we'll get a chance to see that at the next fine home show that you're involved with, and that'll be great.
All right, buddy. Good to talk to you.
Thanks for calling, Jerry. Hey,
always love hearing from our old customers. It's always fun.
You bet. Hey, Scott, before we do the after the storm, I want to get back to Chris here and ask you about Florida real estate.
Well, let's ask him about California first, because California's a fail, Florida's a win. So let's let him kind of juxtapose
compare and contrast.
Yeah. I mean, I really want to talk about that because I've seen some reports lately that, oh, California's the answer. And I'm like, you've got to be joking me. I mean, have you not seen they're totally ignoring the fact that their regulatory system, which is over-regulating the insurance industry, which everyone, lots of people think, oh, insurance is making too much money. We need to pound the insurance. Well, when you make a cup of coffee,
yeah,
and all the price that goes into making a cup of coffee, if you can't sell that cup of coffee and make a little bit of profit, you stop selling it.
Right.
And that is exactly what California did. They basically artificially suppressed rates, which is why their rates are lower, and which is good for a little bit. And now we're seeing what the ramifications of that. Insurance companies leaving the state. You cannot find insurance at all.
Oh.
They're just flat out, you're not able to get it.
Yeah.
So how do you transact a real estate transaction? How do you get a mortgage? What happens when you do get a firestorm like they just had? You're in big trouble. And so that's why that does not work. And what they're trying to do is basically paint over, old damage and hide it instead of getting to the root cause. And that is the difference between California and Florida. Florida went in and got the data, kind of like this, which I'm going to put on social media later.
He says holding up to the YouTube camera.
This is the hail report. It's data. It's saying, here's your problem. Well, Florida did the same thing. They knew they had hurricanes, so they started building fortified homes on the coast. But they also knew they had another problem. They had a very litigious environment. People were paying their premiums. That premium was going straight to lawyers. And in some cases, I've heard 40% aren't even going to victims. So they had to reform their litigation environment. And they passed those laws a couple of years ago. And as a result, they've seen more insurance companies come into the market, and they've seen premiums decline, both in home and auto. But
as an example, Chris, this year they have had 0 rate increase requests and hundreds of rate decrease requests from their insurers.
Huh.
That's how changing the game, really makes a difference for consumers.
Yeah.
I did see a news report about a neighborhood that burned in the Los Angeles area when they had that devastating fire. And this whole neighborhood was being built back to fortified standards, from the ground up. And the report showed everything that they were doing with the no green shrubs or grass between houses.
That's the wildfire readiness program.
Yeah.
And those are the things that I tell Chris, even though we don't have a program like that in Oklahoma, I want to start really talking about educating people about wildfire readiness and presenting the concepts to them and getting them familiar with that so that we can start moving in that direction. I actually believe that we should have some type of a wildfire program in Oklahoma through OID that is going to be supplementing the education and working through the carriers to be able to reward the people that do things the right way. That's what we've got to do. We've got to make this a system that quits selecting risk based on a zip code and the type and age of a roof, that actually knows what the conditions of that specific roof are,
Yeah.
In other words, the preferred risk will get preferred treatment. They'll get better policy terms and conditions. They'll get a lower deductible. They'll get a lower premium. The average risk will get averaged out, and the poor risk will get excluded. And that's the way the system should work. But when you use zip codes to underwrite by, you're dumbing everything down to an average, which penalizes the best risk and rewards the worst risk. It's actually adverse selection for insurance carriers. Okay?
All right. Hey, we will pick this up after the break. I want to tell you, Scott, we haven't done the word of the week yet, so we'll do that when we come back.
Oh, wow.
And we'll also do our after the storm tip when we come back. I want to remind everybody you're listening to McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma on Freedom 96.9, and you can listen to us on freedom969.com or on the McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma YouTube channel. Excuse me, yeah, Scott's holding up one of the maps that shows the climate-related disasters in 2023. We'll be right back. Homer Homer Stacy was a wholesome, good American kid from Texas. At the age of 18, he enlisted in the United States Army Horse Cavalry and was stationed at Fort Bliss. Homer was fascinated with aircraft, so he went to flight school and became an Army Air Corps pilot. Homer Stacy flew a Convair B-24 Liberator, the Yankee Doodle Dandy, on November 11, 1943, when his crew, along with 31 other bombers, destroyed a ball-bearing plant in occupied France. On a return trip, a mechanical failure caused the Yankee Doodle Dandy to drop out of formation, leaving it vulnerable, and shortly thereafter, 7 German Me-109s shot down the plane near Andano, Italy. 4 crew members were killed on board, the others parachuted. 1 was captured and taken prisoner. Homer was among the remaining 5 who made it to Switzerland and returned to duty. Homer Stacy survived World War II, the Korean War, and retired after 23 years of service with many awards and commendations, including the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Purple Heart, and multiple air medals. Homer Stacy McCollum, Scott McCollum's dad. Scott McCollum is McRoof. McRoof.us is owned and operated by the McCollum family, an honorable, trustworthy red, white, and blue family. If you want to fortify your property, call McRoof.us at 405-877-4663. Ask for your complimentary roof inspection performed by a credentialed Hague residential inspector. McRoof.us, saving lives and protecting property by fortifying Oklahoma, one roof at a time. McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma back on the air for the final segment of today's live radio show on Freedom 96.9. On this date in 1967, the U.S. Senate confirmed Thurgood Marshall as the first African-American justice to serve on the Supreme Court. Then on this date in 1993, The Late Show with David Letterman debuted on CBS from the Ed Sullivan Theater in New York City. And I include that only because I loved that show. I watched it every night. Oh, gosh, it was just about the only thing I watched. But I did watch it. Oh, what a great – I still appreciate David Letterman.
So Chris, I want to ask you, what do you? I know you travel all over the state. I know you've got a lot of ideas and you're getting a lot of input. What are some of the things you're thinking about? What are the things you're hearing? What are some of the things you're thinking about?
And before you answer that, Chris, for listeners who may have just tuned in, we're talking with Chris Meredith. He's a declared candidate for the State Insurance Commission. Commissioner.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Scott. And some of the things, my brain is going 100 miles an hour.
Oh, of course.
All the time.
Of course.
And I'm always thinking about, here's all these brainstorm ideas, and then I'm thinking about how to implement them. The how part I kind of get because I'm more of a grassroots person. I want, everyone in their communities to join me in this fight and raise the issue to their legislators, to their communities, and get the message out. That's kind of my, that's how we're going to get it done. But ultimately, I also been lately thinking about vision. And, what is the vision? Martin Luther King, he didn't come in, he didn't say, I have a plan. He said, I have a dream. And so I started thinking about, well, what's my dream? Like at the end of 2 4-year terms, if it takes that long, I'm on a mission to do one thing, and that is to fortify Oklahoma and make insurance stabilize here. That's why I'm running. So at the end of my terms, I'd like to see Oklahoma be the absolute best in risk mitigation and resiliency across the country. And it's going to look like we're going to have, the fortified homes. We're going to have the wildfire, fortifications. We're going to have all that knowledge out in the communities, and people are going to be putting these up everywhere, and we're going to lead the nation. We're going to be the model. That's really what I want to be and see, and everyone looking to us as, man, look at Oklahoma. Look what they've done with, being the most resilient against the risks of every kind of weather you can imagine. That's why we're in this situation, is because of that crisscross of everything that we get. And that's where I want to get us. And if I can get us there, then, I've done my job. I've done my part. And, You know, I just think that's kind of the most important thing to paint in people's mind is this vision. What if all these storms we get, maybe one day they don't even really matter that much anymore because we've addressed the risk.
Well, and I think that you've got great models out there. I think you've got you do have a small, passionate community to work with and to grow with in that regard. But I think that what we have to understand is you're talking about collaboration among a lot of folks. We have got to get this into our building codes over time, which that's a 3-year cycle. This is something that we have to continue to work to enhance, to strengthen the building codes of what we're building in Oklahoma. We have to start with roofs. We have to get roofs actually being permitted and inspected by building officials. You know as well as I do that in most of the state, no one even looks at a roof. A roofer goes out, puts a roof up, that's it. You get what the roofer gives you. And that is not a formula for success. It's an area that we really have to work with in that regard throughout the state of Oklahoma. And then as you and I have talked, this needs to be led, at least from the standpoint of fortified high wind and hail. That has got to be led by the roofing and restoration industry itself. They have got to become the mouthpiece for that. They have to be telling the stories. They have to be showing the maps. They have to be showing the data sets of all of the savings and all of the things that are ultimately going to come from this. You, in an OID commissioner's role, we have got to get the insurance marketplace responding to that quickly. It can't be one of these things where the insurance marketplace goes, well, we've got to see the data over 7 or 10 years before we can start giving people these credits. They have got to move the incentives to the front end of this to where our consumers are making choices not only that affect their bottom line, but that mitigate risk for insurance carriers. And you can't play the actuarial game and say, we'll just have to see what the data tells us in 8 or 10 years. That's got to happen on the front end.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be, part of my job is to make sure not only that we're putting programs in place to mitigate, but that insurance companies are recognizing that, and we have that ability, right? One of the big changes in California that they're having to implement as a result of their collapse because of a bad system is allowing insurance companies to use forward-looking data, models that look ahead,
right?
Because of the changes in climate, and they already have the ability to plug this stuff in. What if this home is fortified? Do I need to? They can plug that into the models. It's not like it's like a lack of ability.
And I've seen studies, Chris. I know that the ability is there to take and determine what that high wind and hail increment in insurance premium is. So if we know that we're going to be able to mitigate to a certain percentage, let's assume let's say we can mitigate 50% of it away by the way we build. Okay, then take 50% of what that percentage of the premium is and start building your discount structures in that way, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, doesn't that's common sense,
yep.
Which my daddy says is the most uncommon thing in the world, but I mean, that's common sense, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure we can do the same thing with wildfire. I'm sure we can take and show them, here's a percentage of premium that is that, and I'm sure that's obviously much smaller percentage of premium than what the high wind and hail is, but we could still do the same thing with wildfire. And if we could get Oklahoma to be the preeminent state in terms of high wind and hail and wildfire, man, you can run for president after that, Chris.
Well,
yeah, calm down there. Calm down, cowboy.
I don't know that I would ever want to do something like that. But I did want to say one thing. So I went out to IBHS. I've seen what can happen, just for everyone to know. And I saw 2 houses next to each other, maybe 10 feet apart.
Right.
And, just because of the spacing and the stuff you were talking about with having that little, no shrubs against the house thing, one house was completely torched, melting. And right next to it, in like 100-mile-per-hour winds,
right?
It was basically untouched,
right?
Yeah.
And so there's and they're not huge things. They're little things you do, and this to protect your home in fires. And we've seen this last spring we had some pretty serious fires up in like Stillwater area, and burned down one of my friends' mom's homes. But the important thing to know is these forward-looking models are already predicting much worse wildfire in the future.
Of course.
And they were already there. They were, a lot of my agent friends were upset because insurance companies were not writing as much because they saw this coming, and they were like, "There's no fires out here. What are you talking about?" 1 year later, here it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we know this stuff is coming. We've got to start preparing now.
And Chris, I think there's two things that consumers should understand, and nobody pays any attention to these, particularly in the roofing space. You should know what the fire rating of your roof covering is, okay? And ideally, obviously, we want a Class A fire rated roof, all right? And the second thing is you should know what the wind rating of the shingle that your contractor is suggesting putting on your roof is, all right? And we should not be nailing 3-tab shingles in Oklahoma. They will not stand up to our winds. And the fact that we still do that and the fact that a lot of roofing contractors still sell that tells us there's a huge disconnect. A lot of education has to take place, not only within the roofing industry, but through all of our consumers. And the consumer that says on a roof that I want cheap, that is a consumer who doesn't understand how important a roof is. The second most important system in any structure after only a foundation, and the number one weather shedding system in every structure, period, end of conversation.
Scott, I need to jump in here to give you time to talk about the difference between experience and expertise. The word of the week that we skipped over at the beginning of the show.
Oh, wow. Do I really want to do that?
You have 2 minutes. Can you do it in 2 minutes?
So experience, expertise are both valuable qualities in any field, but they differ in their nature. Experience is gained through practical exposure, hands-on learning over time, while expertise is a depth of knowledge and skill acquired through continuous practice and study in a specific area. Basically, experience, most people have experience doing things they know how to do. Expertise is built by acquiring new skills, new knowledge, a depth of understanding of a subject by testing yourself, by life experience as part of it, okay? But also by your learning and your depth of study. So that's the difference in the two. I thought this was really interesting in a Harvard Business Review. Living in a cave does not make you a geologist.
And I have just enough time to say that S&CM LLC, doing business as McRoof.us, legally operates under Oklahoma registration number 800000002, and that the registration applies to both residential and commercial roofing. My experience tells me that I have to say that at the end of every show.
Yeah, your expertise or your experience?
Well, my experience tells me my expertise guides my delivery.
There you go.
Which today is kind of scratchy. Okay, so we're about to wrap up. Chris Meredith, candidate for insurance commissioner. Final thoughts, 30 seconds.
I'll lead into the kind of the outro here, but I am from the private sector. I'm not a politician. I'm here to solve a problem, and I'm being very specific about what I'm going to do, and I'm going to have very set goals that you can measure once I take office to get this done, and you will see what we do, and that's the bottom line, and I think that's different than much politicians who speak in generalities. We're here. I have a very specific purpose to get after.
All right. Well, good luck to you. Thank you for joining us again today on McRoof Fortifies, Oklahoma. Thank you, Scott McCullum. Thank you, Retro Radio Randy. Thank you, Scotty McCullum. Hey, Scott, what dad's wisdom do you want to impart on us today?
Well, Dad's wisdom today, I think, is very appropriate. Say what you mean and do what you say. People don't have to agree with you, but they need to know where you stand. I think those are great words for Chris Meredith, my good buddy here.
All right, this has been McRoof Fortifies, Oklahoma, live on Saturday morning.
Thanks,
Freedom
Chris.
96.9. We'll be back next week with another edition. Maybe even have Scotty McCullum back in studio with us.
Have a great week, everybody. Benny, we're thinking about you.